Absolutely. I mean, I think the one thing that's most important to take away from the book, I mean, if you read the book, you'll sit there, you'll think, wow, this is great. He's very smart. He's telling me a lot of things that I know are true, and you'll nod your head, and then you'll put it down and you'll forget most of it, right? So the key part, I think, is really reading it with a purpose, really going through it in a detailed, intense way, and then distilling it down to something you can use. So what I do, and what I think a lot of people enjoy doing, is whether mentally or physically, they have a checklist. They have a system of filters that they're running through constantly. And I think that if there's only one thing you could take away from this book, it's that as soon as you stop and engage either a mental or a paper checklist, a mental filtering system, as soon as you stop to do that, you've already won 80 or 90% of the battle, because just engaging a more deliberate, thoughtful process is most of the battle. So I think that's really the most important thing. I mean, yeah, we could walk through all the various, heuristics and biases that are in here that I've found to be particularly troublesome. I mean, I think I mentioned in the article, I think probably the most relevant one is when I'm doing valuation work, don't anchor on the market price. I try as hard as possible to not even know what the business is trading for until I've come to a reasonable guess as to what I think it's worth. Now, obviously, that's a little bit hard if you've already seen what the business is trading for, because that's how you thought maybe there might be an opportunity to look at in the first place. But try to forget that as much as you can, then go dive in, read the annual report, do whatever it is you're going to do to try to make an estimate of the value of the security that you're interested in, and completely ignore what the market says it's worth right now, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. Whereas I think the vast majority of investors, even good value investors, the vast majority of them are constantly comparing in their mind, here, the stock's trading at a $500 million market cap, and that's what they're constantly comparing it to, rather than just taking it on its own and saying, okay, it's producing earnings of $100 million a year pre-tax, I think that's worth X, and really having that in your head first, and really stopping to think about why that $100 million is the right number, rather than comparing it to what the market says it's worth. Because at the end of the day, what do you really care what the market's saying right now? It's there to potentially present an opportunity, but you don't really need to be focused on that while you're doing the valuation work day to day. So I think those are a couple of the biggest things. If you just stop to slow down, you don't want to be too slow and deliberate. My point isn't that you need to take weeks and months to make every decision. Obviously, if you smell opportunity, you're well served to stop whatever else is you're doing and focus intensely on just that for however many days, weeks, or months it takes to get the answer that you need. So I'm not saying that everything should just be a man of leisure attitude where you're sitting back and waiting for opportunities to come to you. You need to be extremely aggressive and focused in doing your work, but you need to occasionally stop, hit the reset button mentally and say, okay, what am I really focusing on here? What are the big picture items? And not just get swept away in the current of either the market going way up, going way down, the individual security swinging around wildly in price, and really try to focus on what you're trying to accomplish here, which is an accurate valuation of the business. And again, I think the two biggest things that people get caught up in is moving too quickly on that, and then comparing it to the market price. Because if you anchor on the market price, you're always going to be kind of pulled toward it, right? It's going to exert that gravitational pull where, okay, market says it's worth 500, it's got to be worth 525. It's not the point of what you're doing.